The first time Liam saw Alara, she was a splash of crimson silk and unruly curls against the drab gray of the hospice waiting room. He was there for his daughter. Chloe, a wisp of a girl at 10 years old whose laughter had been stolen by the sterile scent of antiseptic and the slow, cruel drip of an IV. Alara was there for reasons unknown, a vibrant, an unsettling splash of color in a place where hope went to fade. She was a whirlwind of dramatic gestures and loud, theatrical laughter that felt like a violation of the quiet despair around her. Liam found her exhausting. Weeks later, after the long, hollow silence that followed Chloe's passing, she appeared again. This time, at the local park, where he and Chloe used to feed the ducks. He was sitting on their bench, a hollowed-out man clutching the ghost of a small, warm hand in his. "It's you," a voice said, too bright, too close. The sad man from the sad room. He looked up. It was the Crimson Woman. Today she wore emerald green, a flowing dress that seemed to swallow the weak afternoon sun. Her makeup was flawless, a perfect mask, but her eyes, a startling shade of violet blue, held a frantic, desperate energy. "Alara," she said, extending a hand adorned with silver rings. "Liam," he replied, not taking it. His own felt too heavy to lift, and so, against the backdrop of his grief, an improbable friendship began. Alara was a paradox. She was a sculptor, her apartment, a chaotic museum of half-finished angels and weeping figures. She spoke in grand pronouncements and lived in a world of heightened drama, yet she seemed to have no one. She latched onto Liam with the tenacity of a climber finding the only handhold on a sheer cliff face. She began to insert herself into his life. She brought him casseroles he couldn't eat, talked about art he couldn't appreciate, and filled his silent, dusty house with noise. He tolerated her at first, because the alternative, the silence, was worse. Her presence was a distraction from the gaping chasm where his daughter used to be. One evening, she was in his kitchen, attempting to make pasta and talking about the tragic beauty of a dying star. The setting sun caught the side of her face, illuminating the perfect, poreless skin. "Do you think I'm beautiful, Liam?" she asked suddenly, her voice losing its theatrical lilt, becoming small and strangely vulnerable. It was a question she asked often, a fishing line she cast into the waters of every conversation, desperate for a compliment, for validation. He usually deflected with a non-committal grunt or a change of subject. He found her striking in a theatrical, overwhelming way. But the word beautiful felt too sacred, too tied to the memory of Chloe's innocent, freckled face. But tonight, the weight of his grief, the raw honesty that comes from having nothing left to lose, made him cruel, or perhaps finally kind. He put down the glass he was drying. The silence stretched, taut and uncomfortable. "No, Alara," he said, his voice quiet but clear. "I don't." The words hung in the air, stark and brutal. He saw her flinch as if struck. The carefully constructed mask of confidence shattered. Her lower lip trembled, and the frantic light in her eyes guttered out, replaced by a well of pure, unadulterated hurt. She had never expected him to answer. Not honestly. "What?" she whispered, the sound barely audible. "I don't think you're beautiful," he repeated, his gaze steady. "Beautiful things are quiet. They're authentic. They don't have to try. Beauty it's the way my daughter's hair smelled after her bath. It's the quiet trust in her eyes when she'd fall asleep on my chest. You're like a firework. You're loud and brilliant, and you demand everyone's attention, but it's a performance. It's not beauty. It's spectacle." Tears, real ones this time. Not the dramatic single drops she sometimes produced for effect, spilled over and traced black lines of mascara down her cheeks. The raw pain in her face was more real than anything he had ever seen from her. "You're cruel," she choked out. "I'm honest," he said, the hollow in his chest aching. "You kept asking. You never seemed to want the real answer. You just wanted the pretty lie." She didn't speak. She just looked at him, her face a ruin of smeared makeup and shattered pride. Then she turned, grabbed her garish yellow coat, and fled his house. the door clicking shut with a finality that echoed in the sudden silence. Liam expected to feel guilt. He expected the hollowness to grow. Instead, a strange, unsettling clarity settled over him. He had spoken a truth he didn't even know he possessed. The next day, she didn't call. Or the day after. The silence in his house returned, but it felt different. It felt charged. A week passed. He found himself missing the chaos, the noise, the sheer exhausting life of her. He realized with a jolt that her spectacle had been the only thing keeping him from drowning. Driven by a remorse he couldn't fully name, he went to her apartment. Her landlord was there, cleaning out the space. The angels and weeping figures were gone, packed away in crates. "She's gone," the man said, shrugging. "Moved back to be with family. Said she had some things to finally take care of." Liam's heart plummeted. He had driven her away. He had taken her fragile, performative soul and crushed it with his brutal honesty. He asked if there was a forwarding address. The landlord shook his head, then paused. "She did leave a note for you, though." Taped to the wall in the bedroom, he handed Liam a single, crisp white envelope. With trembling fingers, Liam tore it open. Inside was not a letter of recrimination or a dramatic farewell. It was a smaller, folded piece of paper, brittle and yellowed with age. Puzzled, he unfolded it. It was a medical discharge form from a military hospital, dated over 15 years ago. His blood ran cold as he read the name, rank, and serial number. It was his. From his brief, disastrous stint in the army, ended by an IED that had killed 2 of his friends and left him with a leg full of shrapnel and a soul full of shadows. He had never told her about that. He never spoke of it to anyone. His eyes dropped to the diagnosis section. The words typed in: cold, clinical ink, psychiatric evaluation, prosopagnosia, face blindness, severe. Secondary to traumatic brain injury. Patient demonstrates a complete inability to recognize familiar faces, including his own, in mirrors. Prognosis: permanent. The world tilted on its axis. The floor fell away. He remembered the doctor's flat voice explaining it. "You will see faces, son, but they will be like a collection of features. A nose, eyes, a mouth. They will hold no identity, no memory, no emotional resonance. You will not know your mother, your lover, or your child." He had learned to cope. He recognized Chloe by the specific pink clip she always wore in her hair, by the sound of her laugh, by the way she skipped. He recognized Alara by her riot of curls, her flamboyant clothes, her loud voice. He had never, not once, seen her face. His brutal honesty, his speech about quiet beauty and authenticity. It was all a lie. A lie built on the foundation of his own broken perception. He couldn't see beauty. He couldn't see her. He turned the medical form over. On the back, in Alara's elegant looping script, was a single line. "I just wanted to hear you say it, even if you couldn't see it. I fell in love with the one man in the world who could never, ever see me." And in that devastating, silent moment, surrounded by the ghosts of her sculptures, Liam finally saw the truth. He had broken the heart of the only woman who had ever tried to love the hollow man he had become, and he had done it with a truth that was, from its very foundation, the most profound and heartbreaking lie of all.